Guys, welcome to the video. Today is a special day. For the first time in long videos, we're bringing Tizok, Pansas, Sardina, and me to life in animated form. I won't say more since I know you're excited. It's going to be awesome. Sick. One time when I was in kindergarten, the teacher put me against the wall because I talked too much, and to punish me, she made me stand in the corner of the classroom facing the wall. But the teacher didn't realize that I talk non-stop, so I made up imaginary friends so I could keep talking. And the teacher would say, "Who are you talking to, kid? There's no one near you anymore." And I would say, "With Miguelito, don't you see him? He's right there. He told me he's going to visit you tonight." And the teacher she sent me back to my seat because she got scared. And the next day she told me, "Because of you, I didn't sleep all." Once when I was little, I thought islands were just little mounds of land with a palm tree because that's how they showed them in movies and in SpongeBob. But one day I went on vacation with my parents and I asked my mom, "Where are we going?" And she told me we were going to an island called Isla Mujeres. And when I got to the boat that was going to take us, I saw there were like 873 people, and I said to my mom, "Hey mom, how is all that many people going to fit on the island? It's going to sink and we're going to be in trouble." And my mom didn't understand what I was saying. But when I got there, I saw it wasn't like in SpongeBob and that they really were big. In fact, I used to think that only 5 people lived in Australia. One time I played a prank on my brother, telling him that his Minecraft house, which took him about 5 months to build, had exploded. And in the end, I got scolded because the guy was taking a shower, so I yelled at him, "Doesn't the TNT sound great in your house?" And he shouts from the bathroom, "No, no, don't blow up my house." And I told him it was too late because I was already doing it, so he ran out of the bathroom crying to tell on me to my mom, but in reality I hadn't touched a single block of his house. But even so, my mom scolded me and punished me for making him cry, and people only understand after getting smacked around. One time my aunt gave me 2,000 peso bills because it was Children's Day. So I decided to go to a toy store and spend both 2,000 bills just on Nerf darts. And when I got home, all happy to try out my new Nerf darts that I had bought, my mom says to me, "Hi son, hey, just so you know, I gave away all your Nerf guns to kids in need." And honestly, I didn't even know how to react. I was just in shock and I said, "Mom, I just spent 2,000 peso bills on just bullets. What am I supposed to do with them?" And she says, "Well, we'll just give those away too." No way. The good thing is that in the end, she took pity on me and bought me a crappy little gun that could only hold 1 bullet. Once when I was little, I thought that the Cars and Princess toothpaste was meant to be eaten because it looked tasty and smelled good. But one day I went to my room and took the toothpaste with me to enjoy it more. And my mom saw me and said, "Where are you taking that toothpaste?" And I told her I was taking it to my room to eat it. When I said that, she realized why the 10 tubes of toothpaste she had bought had disappeared. And my mom said, "You're crazy, aren't you? No wonder it burns when you go poop." And I didn't understand what she meant, but when she explained it to me, I realized. In fact, I was even about to drink mouthwash because it tasted good too. One time my mom told me to brush my teeth, but I was 10 years old and I took it literally. So I grabbed some soap, bit into it and started chewing it because I thought it would make my teeth shine. But honestly, it tasted really bad. When my mom checked on me because I was taking so long, she saw foam in my mouth and thought I had rabies. She finally noticed I was holding the soap and said, "What are you doing, crazy? Wasn't it supposed to be the toothbrush and toothpaste? I don't think this kid is very smart." One time my teacher, definitely, and we used to call him Olmec Head, let out a huge fart because some rice pudding didn't sit well with him. But the damn teacher, instead of taking responsibility for the nasty toxic fart he let out, preferred to blame the fat kid in the class. And a classmate says, "Gross, it smells horrible, like a dead rat." And the teacher goes and says, "Could it be that you're the one farting, Peter?" So my fat classmate Peter, all pissed off, says to him with all due respect, "Are you out of your mind?" I could even hear from here that it's rotting everywhere, and the whole class, we all started dying of laughter. But poor Peter was taken to the principal's office and got suspended for 3 days. At 12, I was invited to a sleepover at my friend El Chuletas' house. When it was time to eat, we all gathered at the dining table as they served the food. But then at one point, El Chuletas' dad walks into the living room naked and says, "Hi kids, I didn't know you were here." And when we all saw him, literally we almost fell backward with our chairs and all. And my other friend Pedrito even dropped his bowl of soup out of shock. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw that El Chuletas' mom was saying something to his dad. And then he runs off and says, "Take care, kids." But when he ran out, he slipped on the bowl of soup that Pedrito had dropped. The good thing is that the man was chubby and he bounced. One time my mom woke me up to go to the bathroom at 3 in the morning because if she didn't, I would wet the bed and leave yellow stains on the mattress. She says, "Ito, get up and go to the bathroom." So I got up, but when I got up, I was still asleep and thought I was already in the bathroom. So I pulled down my shorts and started peeing right there in front of my mom. And my mom's screams woke me up and I realized what I was doing, but then I felt like sneezing and I lost control of my stream. And without meaning to, I peed on my mom, poor thing. She never came to wake me up again, now she sends my dad. One time when Pokemon Go was popular, a friend of mine almost went to meet God because the guy was playing Pokemon Go. At 2 in the morning in Ecatepec, one of the most dangerous areas in all of Mexico City. But the fool was looking for Pikachu, and when he was heading back home, he saw that 3 guys were approaching him on a motorcycle, and he realized they were following him. So he started running, but they caught up to him, and luckily for him, it turned out they were his cousins, worried because his mom was looking for him. Are you following me? They're following me. One time when I was 7 years old, I embarrassed my parents at a restaurant because the owner of the restaurant was there, but I didn't know. And when they asked for the bill, the owner brought it, and I said in front of everyone, "Wow, that's expensive." And the poor man just laughed. But the worst part was that when they brought the change, I said, "Wow, this restaurant is going downhill, and what about the mints?" And in the end, the owner just kept laughing. But my parents were like, "We don't know who this kid is, we just found him outside the restaurant." Once when I was in elementary school, my notebooks were covered in little parrot stamps, and my mom would scold me because I was always chatting with my buddy Panzas and Kalaka in class, and the teacher was always like, "Be quiet, you little devils." But since we wouldn't keep quiet, me, Panzas, and Kalaka would get the little parrot stamp, and they said if we collected 53 of those stamps, we'd get suspended for 3 days. But the good thing is I only got up to 52 stamps, but there was one time they gave me 58 stamps and I got suspended for 3 days. And my mom made me sell bread outside our house. Because if I wasn't going to study, she was going to make me work. But the good thing is I earned 1,000 pesos working. We're all going to work. When I was a kid, our water went out at home. I live in Latam, where water is as valuable as gold. So they sent for a water truck to supply the whole neighborhood, and they filled 3 barrels for each house. And when I went to take a shower, I got into a bucket so I could reuse the water that fell. But it was dirty water and full of soap. And I put it in the clean water tank and I thought, wow, I'm so smart, I'm gonna tell my mom. And when my mom got home, she saw me and said, "Do you have a brain?" And I said, "Yes, I'm very smart. Can't you see my recycling method?" And that's it. She laughed and said, "I don't give you up for adoption because you're handsome, son." Polipiano stole my water. Once when it was Halloween, I almost sent my little brother to meet God because I put on a scary mask and grabbed a dull knife and went up to his room. So when I showed up, he started screaming and threw himself back onto the bed and started yelling, "No sir, please." I had to take off the mask because the guy was about to have a heart attack. The worst part was I was still wearing the same clothes he'd seen me in all day. And the idiot didn't recognize me, and then he accused me and they beat me up, and people only understand through beatings. One time my parents threw me a birthday party and something really horrible came on TV and all the kids saw it because my birthday is on November 1st. And my dad put on a horror movie, but he had no idea that the movie was really scary. And one of my uncles noticed and said to my dad, buddy, the TV, and my dad saw it and ran to turn it off. But on the other hand, my little cousin Tizok was practically passing out from fear. And next time, buy yourself a skateboard that can handle the neutron style. One time when I was sleeping, I had a really horrible nightmare because I was dreaming that I couldn't run. So, to prove to my dumb brain that it wasn't real, that day I told my family to go to the park, and at the park I started running faster than my uncle's speed. But then he started chasing me. A Rottweiler dog, except this one did have all 4 legs. And the good thing is that in the end, I got on a truck so it wouldn't catch up to me quickly. One time when I was in middle school, we left a rotten chicken at school and everything stank because it was in natural science class. We did an activity where we had to bring a chicken to examine it, and Roberto, who was responsible for bringing the chicken, did his part and brought it. But when it was time to take it back to his house, he forgot and left it under his seat all weekend long. And on Monday when everyone arrived, they noticed that the school smelled rotten and awful. So they checked everywhere, even on the roof. But the chicken was in my classroom the whole time. The good thing is that classes were cancelled that day. How did that get there? Once when I was a kid, I sniffed a baby because they smell nice, really good, and honestly, throughout my life, I've smelled more than 1,000 babies. But when I visited a friend with a newborn brother, I found myself smelling him like I was addicted to babies. And then the baby's mom comes in and sees me sniffing like a dog and says they smell nice, right? And I really got scared because they might think I was crazy. The good thing is that later my little brother was born and I sniffed him. Sniff.
Una vez cuando era niño, mi papá...
We got into a taxi because we were going to adopt a puppy, and when we got in the taxi, not even 35 seconds passed and my dad was already the taxi driver's best friend. And they had already told each other their life stories like 60 times. Me, on the other hand, had trouble socializing even with my best friend, who I'd been friends with for 4 years and saw every day. One time I didn't know how to count numbers and I would count like this: 15, 14, 13, 12, and 11, because to me, when I was 10 years old, it made sense. But when I put it on a test, the teacher looked at me like, what the heck? Honestly, it should be counted like that, it's easier. What's up with that 14 thing? Once, they stressed out my little brother by making him memorize the times table of 1, repeating it endlessly. When he went to bed at midnight, my dad woke him and said, "Son, get up to use the bathroom." Half asleep, he replied, 10. Dan ki pa. The poor kid was traumatized, but at least he learned. Once, when I was a kid, my mom left me alone in the car because she got out to buy some head and tongue tacos. But I was really scared that someone would get in the car and take me away. So I would always hide in a space under the seats whenever I saw someone coming. And when my mom came back, she couldn't see me in the car and she got scared. But I would hide so well that even my own mom didn't know where I was. And my mom says, "Damn kid, he must have gotten out and gotten lost." And I say, "Mom, I'm here, help me get out, I think I'm stuck." But the good thing is that I finally got unstuck. One time my mom was scolding me because I had fought with a kid who took my lollipop, so I started talking back to defend myself. Then my dad came in and took her side. And I told them, "Hey, that's not fair, it's 2 against 1, you cheaters." Then they both looked at each other at the same time and said, "Should we beat him up or buy him a bag of lollipops?" I did a Fortnite dance because I was nervous, and they ended up buying me a bag of lollipops for making them laugh. One time I was using the school bathrooms. A kid stuck his head under the stall and I was pooping. Because that guy was a little crazy in the head. And sometimes he would even go into the girls' bathroom to spy. And that day I really had to take a dump. And the crazy guy peeked under the door. And at that exact moment I was about to finish pooping. But I couldn't finish in peace. So I kicked him for being an idiot. One time when I was 13 years old, I was in the car with Panzas and Sardina, and as we were driving, it started to rain. But then Panzas said, "Look at the drops falling on the window," and I got the idea to race the drops. So I named my drop Caracol, Panzas named his, and Sardina named his Rayo, but when the race started, Caracol was winning. But then a really strong wind came and took it away, and Sardina made fun of me, and I got mad and started kicking around. But my shoes were loose, and then my shoe flew off and hit Panzas on the head, and he started crying. Once, when I was 7 years old, I got really constipated because my parents wouldn't let me eat gum, and when they finished their gum, I would keep the wrapper. But I would put napkins instead of gum, and one time I said, "Now it's time to eat gum." And I started putting all the napkins in my mouth, making a ball of napkin, and then I swallowed them because I thought gum was supposed to be eaten, so I grabbed them. And when it was time to go to the bathroom, I couldn't. And I told my mom, "Mom, I can't go because I ate gum." But my mom realized the silly thing I did and I ended up in the hospital. One time my dad embarrassed me at school when I was 7 years old because my mom had gone on a trip, so my dad had to take care of me. But from the very first day, which was Monday, he messed up and sent me to school. He did it however he could, because he took me without my Tarzan sash, with a super weird hairstyle, pants that weren't even part of the uniform, and my shirt on backwards. So, in one of those moments, just as classes were about to start, the teacher saw me and said, "Your dad brought you to school, right?" And I was like, "Yes, how did you know?" And in the end, they sent a note to my parents that said, "Parents, this is a school, not a circus. Please send your child properly dressed." When my mom returned from her trip, she told my dad he was being silly. One time when I was a kid, I thought Coca-Cola was butt water and that's why it was black. One day, my dad bought a soda at the store, and when he returned, I asked, "What is that? Why is it black?" And he tells me, "It's a soda with cola flavor, son." And since I was a kid, I just stood there like that. Then he asked me, "Do you want some?" And I told him no because I wasn't about to drink someone else's butt water. But I don't think he understood me. Then he took a glass, poured himself cola, and did this. How tasty! And I almost threw up in front of him until one day they explained to me that it wasn't butt water. I tried it and I became addicted to soda. And what is that? What? One time, a 9-year-old girl almost disappeared right in front of my eyes like magic because she was putting on some cream. So I asked her, "What are you doing?" And she says to me, "I'm putting on a rejuvenating cream that takes off 10 years. And I go, "What? And how old are you?" And she goes, 9. And I say, "You want to disappear, right?" And she didn't get it. So I said, "You're 9 and the cream takes off 10 years. So how old would you be?" And she says, -1. And she ran off crying because she didn't want to disappear.
If you didn't fight.
One time I tricked my whole class into thinking I'd gone on vacation to Disney because I started uploading photoshopped pictures to my Facebook of me and my family at the park. And in the caption it said, "Wow, I'm in Disney, this is so beautiful." Because I thought I knew how to speak English, but actually I didn't because I had translated it with Google Translate. But then I go back to school on Monday and they start asking me, "How was your trip to Disney?" And I'm like, "What trip? Me?" And then I remember my little joke and I say, "It was really awesome. I met Lightning McQueen." But actually it was all a lie because I had stayed home cleaning my house and my dog Mickey's poop. Once at the supermarket, I nearly made my mom spend over 3,000 pesos while we shopped for groceries. She told me to get apples and anything else we needed. So I took her at her word and grabbed 2 kilos of apples. Then I went to the toy aisle and grabbed 12 packs of Nerf bullets because I needed them. And when I got to her, I said, "Done, this is what we need." And she said, "Son, don't be silly, what we need for the house, not for you." And FF, I had to go put all the packs of bullets back, but at least she bought me one little pack. One time for my birthday, my mom threw me a party, but she didn't want me to invite a boy named Max because she said he ate a lot and always asked for a second goodie bag and everything was counted. So we went around my neighborhood with a little bag to hand out the invitations and my mom tells me, "If you see Max, don't show him the bag." And I was like, "Yes, mommy, okay?" And then at one point my mom starts chatting with another lady, but then Max comes over, sees my bag and says, "Hi, what are you carrying there?" And I, all nervous, say this and he sees all the invitations and Max says, "Oh, give me one." And my mom just looked at me like that. "Are you okay? Are you okay?" One time, my mom ruined my breakfast because I wanted to eat yogurt with fruit and I saw there was a container of yogurt in the fridge. And I thought, hell yeah, I scored. So I served myself a plate of fruit which took me a while to peel and without realizing it, I start pouring the supposed yogurt. But when I was about to eat it, I see that stuff was black. And that's when I realized it wasn't yogurt, but beans that my mom had stored there. And to top it off, they'd been in the fridge for months because they were green and smelled really bad. As a kid, I nearly became the homeless guy on the corner after visiting a gas station. Once the windows were opened, I started sniffing, sniff, 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 and liked the smell of gasoline. I liked it so much that I once asked my mom, "Hey mom, can you buy me a liter of gasoline?" And she looked at me confused and said, "Are you a transformer or what? Are you a gasoline transformer? You're crazy." The good thing is she didn't buy it for me. "Are you okay?" She said. One time, a girl almost killed me with laughter because of something she said. She was doing a little TikTok dance, really cringe. So I told her, "Stop doing that, you're cringe." Then she stared at me and said, "What?" And I said, "You know what cringe is, right?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, what is it?" And she told me it was someone who hates Christmas. She thought that cringe and Grinch were the same thing. So I started laughing, but she didn't understand anything until I explained it to her, and then she got it. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and like. It's free.
Mama, I'm a criminal. Mama, I'm a criminal. Mama, I'm a